follow-up. I don't know why I called it that. Career Money follow-up number 48, following up on Career Money podcast episode number 48, where we talked about how to get what you really want. And I said yesterday at the end of the follow-up that it's interesting to me how the stream of consciousness, listening to these episodes back to back like this and covering another one every day. Because when we recorded these originally, they were planned out a couple days to a couple weeks in advance, and then we record them, and then they're published at least a week apart. So I kind of forget the headspace we're in at the time that we created the content, and going back and listening to them now in such rapid succession, it's interesting to see that there's so much correlation from episode to episode.
Yeah, I think what's interesting for me when we go back, and it's clear to me that there were some very distinct themes that we were talking about. One of the things that I think that so part of the reason why we started the Queer Money podcast is John and I believe that that there is a need for folks, especially gay men in the queer community, to be able to reach a better life and be more cognizant of self-actualization. And sometimes we need to take the steps or to hear about that first, right? We're not aware of that because when you look at it, out in a magazine, nobody on Grindr or Scruff or any of the queer publications are talking about self-actualization, right? How do we individually move our lives to a better place? A lot of times they're talking about the here and now, the focus on what they think is important right in the moment, or the sexualization. And that's part of the reason why we started the Queer Money podcast. And it's clear to me that some of these conversations that we were having, trying to encourage gay men especially to think more along the lines of how can we take our lives to the next level? How can we up our lives to more than just appearance, but actually really the deep feelings of feeling good about the direction we're taking our lives.
Yeah, exactly. So our question for you for today is, do you ever dream of being your own boss? Now, I think that's probably, it's a rhetorical question to some degree, I guess, because I think at one point or another, everybody kind of wishes that they were their own boss, right?
Well, I think that happens a lot when we are having a non-amicable relationship with our employer, right? Whether it's a boss or a colleague or a team or whatever the case, we all are like, this, I just want to be my own boss.
There's always that point in employment where you're just like, I can't stand this. I just want my own. And now, whether or not we actually want to be our own boss, and I don't think that everybody should be their own boss.
Not everybody is suited to it.
That's not what everybody wants. I'm not trying to force my dream on everybody else. But I do think that everybody kind of reaches that one spot in their career or their job where they're just like, I could just do this much better, or I just wish I could just be my own boss. So that's somewhat of a rhetorical question, and it's somewhat related to episode 48 of the Queer Money podcast. What episode 48 was about how to achieve what you really want. And what David and I talked about on that episode was we had kind of come off of a mini speaking tour, so to speak, and we were riding the high of that because being able to speak in front of an audience was a goal that David and I had set for ourselves several years prior, and we just loved it. We just thoroughly enjoyed being up on stage, sharing our message, and then in almost every situation, we actually had some great dialogue with people afterwards, whether it was the actual scheduled Q&A for that particular event, or afterwards, when you go to the bar afterwards with folks and you kind of meet with them a little bit more personally, and we were just riding the high of that. So we talked about how we went from nothing to being able to get to a point in our career where we were speaking, but there was a nugget in that particular episode that I wanted to extrapolate on today, where we talked about we would just love to see more gay entrepreneurs. There should just be more gay entrepreneurs, whether it's full-time or part-time, whether it's kind of a hobby but somewhat money-related, or if it's if you're going all in and you're creating an empire. We would just love to see more entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Well, and I think that the part of the driver behind that is, as I mentioned, the self-actualization. It's interesting. Jim Rohn, major motivational speaker from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, he said, make $1 million, not because of making the $1 million, but because of what it will make you become. And when you really think about it, you think about all of the things that you have to do with your life to be able to get to the point where you have a business that's generating income like that, and all of the things that it brings you inside. And I think that's why we want to see more queer entrepreneurs. We want to see more people, because we talked about this before. One of the things that both of us find very sexy in a man is when that man has a level of true, deep confidence. Not that facade of confidence based on what they're wearing or being able to tell you a fabulous story or make everybody laugh. The confidence in that you can see that they carry, how they carry themselves, in that they truly are. They're making good decisions with their life, right? You can see that in a man. We can oftentimes we can see that when we scan the room. We can see the individuals who look like that, and being even a somewhat successful business owner helps you create that level of confidence.
Not that that's the only way, but there is that sort of visceral confidence that some people have, and they don't necessarily need to kind of shove it in your face. It's sort of a quiet confidence, and you can see that, and that's like the vibration that they're emitting. And so just kind of quickly move things the next section all along here. But David and I decided to start our own business for a couple of reasons. But the primary goal was that we simply wanted to spend more time together.
Right.
We were working for W-2s, working for different companies, both in financial services, and we found ourselves just kind of hating the day-to-day grind. Right. We'd wake up early, go to the gym, hurry up and work out, clean up, go to work. David would typically drop me off. Then he'd go a little bit further to his job. 8 to 10, 12 hours later sometimes, he would come back, pick me up. We'd go home. We'd hurry up and eat, watch a little TV, go to bed. And we did that until, then we had the weekend. And so it just felt like it was tiring, and we weren't really being fulfilled. And we thought to ourselves, well, he's the most important person in my life, the person I want to spend the most time with. Aww. And here I am, and vice versa.
Whether you like it or not, it will be.
And here we are spending like a fraction of our time together, especially on the weekdays, right? Maybe 2 hours of actual being able to hang out with each other, and not where we weren't like rushing around, packing bags, making dinner, and so it wasn't enjoyable. And then on top of that, we wanted to be able to, we talked about our inspiration for getting out of debt. We wanted to travel more. We wanted to save more. We wanted to give more. And so we thought, well, how can we create a lifestyle that allows us to do all of that? Right. Travel more, save more, give more, and simultaneously spend more time together. And we thought to ourselves, the answer that came to us was, let's start our own business. And even if we can only get it to a point where it's good enough to be where it's only a part-time business, that will still give us a little bit more autonomy than what we currently had at that time.
Right. I think that what we were realizing, and we had, you and I talked about this a lot. The fact that we were giving the best of ourselves to someone else, right? We were giving the best energy of our day, the best hours of our day, the most hours of our day. We were giving that to an employer so that they would turn around and do what? Give us just enough money for us to feel like we were comfortable. Not successful, but just enough money that we felt like we were comfortable. We were trading the best of ourselves for comfortability, and that's not what we wanted. We wanted to feel like we were thriving in our relationship, that we were thriving in our experience in life. And for us, it just didn't feel like we would ever get there if we continued to give the best of ourselves to an employer who was always going to just barely compensate us for that time.
And I think the reason why we hammer home on this message of we've been talking about trying to get more LGBTQ entrepreneurs for even before this particular episode 48 of the Queer Money Podcast, simply because it provides you autonomy, it provides you confidence, it can help increase your financial security. There's a myriad of reasons why, but I think that a lot of people, they do have the desire to be their own boss authentically. It's not just a rhetorical question for them, but I think that there's sort of this feeling sometimes that we all have where that's just not something that I can do. I've seen other people do it. I've even seen people in my own life, my own family, whatever, do it, but it's just not within my grasp. And we would encourage you to think about that if it's in anybody's grasp, it's in your grasp.
Right.
If we can do it, you can do it. If your neighbor or your family member can do it, you can do it.
Right, and it's like my desire to build a modern home. I would literally, if I could, and I'm using the example of the couple who built the LA house back in the 50s. If you're not familiar with the LA house is the most photographed, or the most photographed home, or has had the most photographs taken from that home than any home in America. And it is this tiny 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, very simple mid-century modern home that is perched on the side of a hill in LA, where this couple bought this crappy piece of land, literally on the weekends, drove their truck and went around picking up free dirt from places in LA, built up the side of the hill, and then built this modern home on the side of the hill that is now, because of the fact that it is such a classic style home, is worth millions and millions. I mean, this home is probably worth $20 million, and I don't think that they spent more than $20,000 on building it. And I would love to have that experience myself. I would love to be able to physically build my own home, but I can't do that. So the next best step for me is to get the help of others to design a home and have someone else do at least most of the construction, right? Well, that's the same thing with businesses, I think, that if you have a desire to build a business, either you're going to create everything on your own, and it may take you a longer time to get there, and you may have more fulfillment, or you're going to do most of it yourself and hire others to either help you do portions of it, or hire into the business to help run the business. And I think every single one of us has the capacity to learn how to do that.
Yeah, I think because I think people do have a skill set, right? They're good at making donuts. And they think I can make donuts. But then when you think of a business, it's like, well, there's all this other stuff. I gotta rent or buy real estate property. I've got to I've got to do the accounting. I've got to figure out the financing. I've got to, all these other things that come with owning a business. But to your point, you don't necessarily have to be good at everything.
Right. You
can be good at building donuts or making donuts. You don't need to be good at the other stuff. That's what you can hire out.
I have a feeling somebody wants to go get a donut when we're done with this.
Well, I was just thinking because I was having coffee, and
there is a phenomenal donut shop a block and a half from us. It's rated as one of the best donut shops in America. So,
and we kind of agree. But anyway, off topic. So our argument is, we would just love to see more gay entrepreneurs, and we think that a lot of people don't pursue that because they don't think it's within their grasp. And so there's a quote from this particular episode that we liked, and I said it, so that's why I like it.
But pat myself on the back.
But most of us won't give up anything to get what we say we want. We're more focused on getting what we kind of want, because getting what we kind of want is kind of easier, or at least we think. And our argument to you is it really easier? I mean, at the end of the day, at the end of your life, are you going to regret not doing what it is you said you wanted to do, or are you going to regret sticking with the safe and the here and now?
Right.
And I think a lot of us get stuck in the safe and the here and now.
So the quote here kind of reminds me of Eric Thomas, motivational speaker Eric Thomas. He has this story where he talks about the wise man meets a young man, and the young man says he wants to be successful, and he's the man says to him, "Okay, meet me at the beach at sunrise tomorrow morning." And the guy shows up, and he's dressed in a suit, and he's all ready to go. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to get all this. And the guy says, come with me. And he starts to walk the guy out into the water. And the guy's like, no, my suit's going to get wet. He's like, do you really want the truth about how to be successful? And he's like, okay, well, this guy knows something. He's clearly done a lot with his life, and he's very successful. I want to be successful too, so I'm just going to do what he says. So he follows the guy out into the water, and eventually he gets to the point where the guy has him out into the water up to his neck. And then the guy grabs a hold of his head and pushes him down underneath the water. And he holds him down and he holds him down. And he's like, what the heck is this? You know, it pops up and he's like, what the heck are you doing to me? This is not about success. And he says, but it is about success. And I'm not telling the story exactly correctly, but basically the guy says to him, what was the most important thing on your mind?
When you were underwater.
When you were underwater. And that is, I'm going to get to a point where I can't breathe. I need to breathe. And he basically says, that's the drive you need when it comes to being successful. You want it as bad as you need to breathe, or as much as you want to breathe, right? And in one of his motivational talks, he says, many of us say we want it, but we don't want it bad enough. What we really want is the time on our cell phone more. We want time out at the bar more. We want time with our friends more. We say we want this level of success, but where we give our time is completely different.
Contradictory. Yeah. And we definitely fall prey to that too. We're not, not immune to that. But so how are we succeeding with our objectives and our goals of spending more time together, saving more money, giving more, and traveling more? Well, we would argue that most of that is due to the fact that we've started our own business. And so that's why we're encouraging more gay entrepreneurs. So how do you go ahead and start your own business? Well, in today's economy, especially with COVID, we think one of the easiest paths to getting into business is starting your business virtually. Whether you're doing a podcast, whether you're doing a YouTube channel, whether you're doing a blogging, there's just any number of virtual businesses. And that's a great way to sort of dip your toe in the water and get things started.
Right.
Can that evolve into a brick and mortar business someday? Absolutely. But maybe starting online is the lowest barrier to entry right now. And this particular episode isn't about how to figure out what kind of business to start. We're going to share with you 3 tips here about how to then, once you figure out what type of business you want to start, how to then go ahead and get started. If you want some motivation or inspiration for what kind of a business to start, watch episode 42 of the Career Money Follow-Up series, where we talk about or ask, do you know your Ikigai? That can help give you some ideas of what you might be able to do to create your own business and get ultimate life satisfaction. So the 3 steps to actually get started once you figure out what you want to do are...
1, brainstorm the little steps to make it happen. So, for example, John and I are trying to grow up this avenue of our business where we're doing more videos. And so we knew that in order to do that, we actually had to create videos. We had to be on YouTube, right? This is an area where we're trying to reach in more gay men specifically, but more queer folks who are on YouTube. And so we knew that we needed to do this. So we needed to learn a little bit about what we needed to do on YouTube. We're still learning. Obviously, you can tell these videos. We do a live video.
Really?
These are not amazingly produced videos like some of the other ones, but this is the way that we wanted to start, is by having these live conversations. And so we did some research on, okay, what does it take to do a live video? How can we do a live video and broadcast from YouTube to Facebook to Twitter to the places where a lot of our audience are at? So we did this kind of brainstorming session to find out what those little steps are.
Right. Step number 2 then is to prioritize those little steps. You're gonna, if you brainstorm long enough, I mean, you could just come up with a million steps of what it's going to take for you to get from point A, not having a business at all, to eventually having a business. And it can seem daunting. But those are all probably very important steps. So we would then suggest, once you've done that brainstorming, go through and prioritize. What is the most important thing to do first? Yeah. And then what is the second most important thing? And what you're creating basically for yourself is an itinerary, ranked in the priority of what's the most important thing down to the least most important thing.
Yeah. And then third, you have to do something, right? You have to start taking those little steps. And what we would encourage you to do is to take those steps methodically. I mean, that's one of the things that we did. It's easy to get caught up in this idea of I need to do all this stuff, right? John and I got caught up into that. We felt
chasing disco balls.
Right. Well, we felt like we needed to do everything. The people that we wanted to emulate, the people we wanted to be like in the online personal finance space, we kind of felt like we needed to do everything that they were doing. And that was one of our big inhibitors to our success early on was we were trying to do too many things. And it's like trying to talk to too many people at once. You're not talking to anybody, right? So if you're trying to be on all the platforms, if you're trying to take every step, if you're trying to do, you're going to get tired. You're not going to have the success that you want. You're not going to be able to focus on any particular thing. And it's just going to take you a lot longer to get there.
Exactly. And then, as David said, I just lost my train of thought, so I'll continue. There's a quote also that we shared on this particular episode that we really liked, and many of you know that I'm a super fan of Lisa Nichols. But this is sort of when you're thinking about starting your own business, and we've just explained to you the first iterative steps to go ahead and get started with that. If there's an ounce of you that thinks that it's not a possibility for you, if that's not within your reach, this quote from Lisa Nichols might inspire you. She says, "If your knees aren't knocking and your teeth aren't chattering just a little, then you're not playing big enough."
Yeah.
And I would argue that a lot of us don't play big enough. I would even argue that there are days that David and I don't play big enough. But we need more LGBTQ people to play bigger. And a great way to do that is to start your own business, because it provides a lot of confidence, a lot of authority, a lot of financial security. It's just a great way to get things, to really amplify the needs of the LGBTQ community.
Right. And I will say one of the things you're going to run into, especially if you're going in the online space, is there are not a lot of super successful online queer entrepreneurs. Especially when you look at the motivational, the personal finance space, the blogging space, there aren't a lot of very, very successful individuals who are out there sharing and teaching their knowledge because they themselves are perfecting their own craft. That is one of the things you're going to find, is that there aren't a lot of LGBT entrepreneurs to look up to as mentors to gain that kind of information from. That's part of the reason we need more. The more of us there are, the more of us that then will be able to help those that are trying to come up behind us, right? That is one of our eventual goals, is we would like to help more people get to the point where we're at. We're still on our path towards success, and we will eventually hand that information down to other individuals to make it easier for them, because we all know when you're a queer entrepreneur, when you're a queer person, life is slightly different for you. It's the same thing for a person of color versus a white person. Online, your business is going to be slightly different.
Yeah.
You're going to be appealing to a different audience, and you're going to need to understand your audience, right? And so as queer folks, especially those of us who focus on businesses that focus on the queer community, we're still learning, and we need more people so that we can find a level of success collectively so that we can share that.
Exactly. And none of this is to say that this is going to be easy, but it's also to say that it's not impossible. It's actually very possible. And if you're having some inhibitions about whether or not this is actually possible, we would encourage you to watch episode 16 of the Queer Money Follow-Up series, the #1 hurdle to your success.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us for another episode of the Queer Money Follow-Up series. Here is your takeaway from this particular episode. Please get your free guide of the 5 building blocks of a happy gay life at debtfreeguys.com/happy. And then in the comment section below, or in the Queer Money Facebook group, let us know if you ever dream of being your own boss. And depending on how open and honest you want to be, let us know exactly what your dream is. And maybe there are some people who read this or who are in the Facebook group that might be able to help you get at least a little bit closer to what your goal is.
Yeah. And then come back tomorrow. Tomorrow we are going to be talking about Queer Money Follow. We'll be doing Queer Money Follow episode 49. And that was based on an episode we did, Queer Money episode 49, where we talked about ways that we things that we did to help us save money, some unique ways that helped us cut our expenses, and other things that you can do to cut your expenses if you're trying to fund a business, pay off debt, save for down payment on a house. So it's ways that you can save money.
Absolutely. And then lastly but not leastly, please like this video, give a thumbs up on this video, whatever platform you're on. Follow us and set notifications on this station so that next time we go live, you can join in on the conversation. Thank you, and we will see you tomorrow.
Have a great Sunday.